Welcome to Matrix Tech Talk.
In this episode, Maximilian Odendahl tells you how to raise $18 million. Today we have a CEO from an award-winning company, Silexica, Maximilian Odendahl. Max, welcome to Matrix.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about Max. Max is the CEO and the co-founder of Silexica, which is a company formed in 2014 and became a world leader of software development automation. So they right now have, they're present in, based in Germany, they're present in the United States and in Japan. So Max personally is a computer engineer who studied at RWTH Aachen University and graduated in 2010. He worked as a chief engineer at a chair at RWTH Aachen, the chair called Software for System on Silicon, with 15 other researchers. He has about 20 peer-reviewed publications in international conferences and journals. So I'm very excited. The fact that Max and Max's company has raised 18 million venture capital from Equity Ventures. So Max, my first question to you would be, how did it start? How did you get inspired? And tell us a little bit about the beginning of Silexica.
Sure. So we started in 2014, as you said. We were a spin-off from Aachen University. So the company is quite young, but the research leading towards the company foundation started like 15 years ago, a long time before I was there. And we started working with the industry closely, even before doing the company. And we just saw there was a lot of interest, right? And I think that industry interest combined with our entrepreneurial spirit, I would call it, just like, why don't give it a try, right? Let's go for it. We applied for some German government funding called Exist. We collected a bunch of smart people, took the first step, bought off the IP from the university, spun it off into a company, and that was the start in 2014.
Mm-hmm. That means you started the project before forming the company as a student already.
Exactly.
Was it a part of your master thesis, or
it was part of my PhD?
Part of your PhD.
Also part of my master's thesis, both. And actually, originally, so before that, I was working at Sun Microsystems in Silicon Valley, and I wanted to stay. But then I was doing my master thesis in that topic, and it was just so interesting. And smart people. It was like, oh, why don't I do a PhD in that topic and stay? I stayed for much longer.
Right. Were you always an entrepreneur type when you grew up, or how did it? There is a fundamental difference between someone who is a researcher or technology enthusiast, but want to be a 9-to-5er and want to move the technology forward in that way. There's another type who wants to take in charge of everything and be an entrepreneur, move the world around. So you are in the second type, in my opinion. And how did it happen? Was it like, were you inspired to be one of such type? What inspired you?
Good question. I think I was just a bad researcher, so I had to be an entrepreneur. No, I think I always liked, putting a lot of different pieces together and trying to do something new, right? If that's different technologies into a new product, if that's just look at it a little bit different and try to make an impact, I guess. And plus some, I like reading a lot of entrepreneurial blogs and, venture capital and everything surrounding. It's a lot of bubble, and a lot of, BS as well. But I always enjoyed this entrepreneurial spirit, I think. So combination of those two, I think. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
That does. I mean, for me, it was 9-to-5 was something that I couldn't live with. So entrepreneurship was the only option. So pretty excited. So in your company, you have right now 50 people. You're the CEO. You're leading the team. So what drives you forward? You formed the company in 2014. It's been almost 4 years.
Yep.
More than 4 years. What drives you forward? What keeps you going?
Well, first, I have a lot of fun doing it, right? It's 50 smart guys. I think it's a huge problem in the industry, what we're trying to solve, right? I believe without automation of, automatically giving you system insights, automatically understanding source code, there's no way future project can be done. So I think it's a huge problem, which I get to work with for a variety of different industries. So the last 4 years, I mean, the amount of stuff I learn is just mind blowing. So it's fun. It's a big problem. It's interesting. I'm also an engineer at heart, so I actually enjoy the technical challenge. So it's easy to be driven, I guess.
So for me, what's interesting is an entrepreneurial mindset. Yeah, I mean the technology, the skills, or especially the skills, it's been commoditized at one point. I mean, even your company, the purpose of your company to actually eliminate engineers. So, I mean, when Elon Musk says this will be house cat compared to AI, I kind of believe him, yeah? So skills is one thing that's out there. What's very important for me is the mindset. So the entrepreneurial mindset, if you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, so what mindset advice would you give?
Never give up.
Never give up. That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
it's always a long journey, right?
Yeah,
and you need to be really aware of what you're getting yourself into, right? I love my job, but it's also very hard work, right? And all the stuff you read at gründerscene.de as an example is just what I mentioned before, like this bubble, right?
Yeah.
The goal is not to raise money, right? The goal is not to have as many people as you can have, or open as many offices as you can. The goal at the end should be make some money. And solve a problem for somebody, right? So sometimes I have a feeling like it's more about the fake glory of entrepreneurship and not actually putting in the hard work, and that's what I mean with be aware of what you're getting yourself into. So I work a lot. My team is working like crazy, and there are lots of up and downs, right? And it changes every day. I'm sure you can relate to that. It's a fight every day, right?
It's a fight every day.
So I have a lot of fun, but it's a fight every day. And I think people just need to be aware of that if that's really what they want.
That's really, especially the downside. Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with the downside when there is a hurdle, when there is a punch on your face? I mean, you face that. As an entrepreneur, you got to face that. This is important. How do you deal with that?
Well, usually there's like some good news the next day again. So you just need to wait for the next day. Yeah. No, I think overall you just need to be confident that you still go in the right direction, right? And as long as you're aware of that, it doesn't hurt as much if you get punched in the face, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But yeah, there's also, I mean, you mentioned fundraising. Raising in the beginning, right? As an example, our Series A, that was 8 million we got in the US, right? I think I talked to 50 venture capitalists. 49 said no.
49 said
right?
No.
At the end of the day. So, you got to still be sure that makes sense. And listening to advice is important and is good. But just because 49 people told you that stupid idea, I will never fund you ever, it doesn't mean you should stop in any way, right? No, you just need to find the next guy, I guess, who believes in you.
I think this 40 or 50 is really the magic number. Jeff Bezos always talks about 40, the 39 other who rejected him as the 40th guy.
Yeah. So there's a rule for entrepreneurs.
There's a rule
Talk
for
to at least 50.
Talk to at least 50. Yeah, you're doing your job right. Yeah. So. Tell us a little bit about fundraising. Yeah? I mean, if there is an aspiring entrepreneur who's listening to this or watching this podcast, what would be your advice in fundraising? What do they want to see, the investors, and how to proceed them as a fresh entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, there's one sentence I learned in the US, which I really like, is they want to believe you believe, right? It doesn't mean at them. It doesn't mean just have nothing to back it up, but still they want you to actually believe in what you're doing and not be hesitant. It doesn't mean everything, and you shouldn't pretend you have answered all the questions, because they're going to say, well, if you know everything already, why do you need me in the first place, right? Why do you need my money? So be confident, have a good story. I think that's a key element, storytelling, right? Don't go, we started, probably our first pitch was like, multi-core is hard and blah, blah, blah. And you already lost them on the multi-core. Now the story is more like, hey, the future, the the future of the world is going to be very intelligent applications, right? Autonomous vehicles being an example. How to enable that, their challenges, and blah blah blah. Right? So you started from do you start from technology as an example, or do you start from the problem or a need or a story from humanity surrounding your technology? Very different start, even though the next 20 slides might be identical. So I think that the storytelling, make them connect to you in a way from the first second. I think that's important, which the US are amazing in that. I think Germans, and especially engineers, especially myself, they're horrible in it. So I think that there's some parts missing. At least German entrepreneurs can learn from that storytelling.
Absolutely, I think I can relate to that. I mean, we get too caught up with the technology because we like the technology and we want to talk technically how great the technology is. But the investors, to them, the pain point is interesting. So what is the actual real life problem we're solving?
And I get excited about the technology, but they don't actually care.
They don't actually care.
And you just need to make that switch in your head. And then storytelling makes sense, right? And,
storytelling makes sense.
And yeah.
Right. So are you planning to raise another round? How is your entrepreneur vision right now? I mean, in which direction do you want to take your company to?
So I cannot share too much.
Absolutely, yeah.
There are different options. I mean, there's an option, let's make a lot of money first, grow the revenue significantly, and that's one path. It could be, hey, are we building something even bigger than what we're currently planning, and that could require more money, and that could be another round. So there, lots of different paths we can take. I think the focus is what I said before. At one point, you better solve some problems, right? And not just raise round after round after round without actually advancing your product and your problem solving capabilities. So anything can happen.
Yeah. So to that, what I want to ask you is now how does your day-to-day life look like? As a CEO, I can tell you is sometimes it's even I don't realize how months go by. How do you deal with that? How does it day to day?
Which I think good point, because it's a problem. You're so stuck in day to day, and days and weeks and months fly by. But your job as a CEO is actually step back and forget about day to day issues. And are we going in the right direction? Does our product strategy actually make sense combined with our corporate strategy, right? Those kind of problems. What do I need to fix? Is the marketing department working? Is HR working? Is the product teams are they working? Right? Are they all going in the same direction? Does everybody know what you're actually trying to do? All those kind of things, which you're typically not solving, in your day-to-day operations, when you're like, oh gosh, again, 100 emails, when I ever get them done, right? So I think that taking a step back, I think is hard, but you have to, somehow really force you to do it, because every day is busy, right?
Every day.
You never run out of work. You can never, lay down close the keyboard and say I'm done for today. You're never done.
You're never done. Yeah. Sometimes in a plane, when somebody asks me, what do you do for a living? I jokingly start with I'm a firefighter, because that's the best way to describe my job. Yeah. So Max,
that sounds better than my answer would be I write emails. Right? Or I'm stuck in a telco, so I like firefighter more.
Yeah, firefighter. So my next question to you, Max, you have built a company that's just raised 18 million in the second round. I really admire you, because Matrix is fully organic. It's a different business model. We haven't raised a single dollar from external sources. So you definitely are managing your firefighting job, if I may call it that way, in a different way. So how do you deal with this firefighting? So because if you're firefighting, as you said, your job as a CEO is not firefighting. Your job is to look at the vision. Are we in the right direction? Take the company forward. Yep. How do you balance this firefighting and taking the company forward?
Yeah, good question. I think there are different aspects. One is, there's no magic solution. You just have to work hard and a lot, right? So there's some smart blog posts where like, oh, if you cannot go home at 5, you just don't know how to prioritize, or you don't know how to divide your work. I think that's stupid. I think you don't get around of working very hard. I think that the second part is you need just a great team, right? You need to put in the right people and trust them and get out of their way, right? For example, one of our co-founders, he's taking care of operations in our team. I trust him 100%. I'll sign blindly whatever he does. If you don't have that kind of team where you can have that blind trust, there's no way a single person, not even the best CEO in the world can. Oh, I'm fundraising while I'm doing firefighting, while I'm doing a new marketing strategy. It's not gonna happen, right? And then, I think the third part of that is you just need to be aware of what situation are you in, right? It could be the time for firefighting, but it could also be the critical timing for, okay, now I need to close that financing round. And yes, maybe I cannot put out some fires, but then, at this day or this week, fundraising might be the most important thing. And then you have to stick with it. Prioritize, yeah. And so, what's the critical focus for that week or that month or that day? And then stick to it and not, oh shit, another 10 emails. So I thought that was important, but now this is important and now this. Everybody just gets confused.
Fascinating. So empowering people, choosing the right people and trusting and empowering them is really the way, and then prioritizing. I love that. There are two.
I read a good quote. A CEO has 3 parts to his job. One is raise enough money. If you're in a venture-backed company. Second is use that money to hire a great team and get out of their way in order to build your vision, right? So have a vision, hire a great team, and make sure you're not running out of money. Those 3 parts, which resonated with me very well the first time I read it, because you can put everything below those 3 buckets. What we discussed earlier. So I thought always that's a good guidance. I didn't mention firefighting in those 3 items, but of course, yes, that's also part of it.
Yeah. I love that, and also like the fact that you said if you're not going home at 5, then you're not doing your job right. I also do not subscribe to that ideology. Yeah. I don't also subscribe to the idea of work-life balance. I think CEOs you got to be hustlers. You got to keep hustling, and great to hear the same idea echoed from another CEO. That feels good. I think.
But family is also important, just in case my wife is also listening.
That's very important. That's very important. Yeah. Yeah, that brings me probably to the roundup question. How do you balance your private life and your work life? Your hustle and how does that work?
Yeah. It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. Because just like everybody else, I guess, you feel that whatever you do, the other one falls short, right? Yeah. So obviously you have to work a lot, and I feel my kids and wife are getting not enough time, and if you're home, you think the company doesn't get enough time. So yeah, you just I don't know. I don't have a magic solution. At the end, hustle in both fields, right? Yeah. What is also nice, as being the CEO, is you have a lot of flexibility, right? For example, in the afternoon I could spend 3 hours with my kids, and I'm totally fine doing so, because I know, starting from 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. the next night, I'm going to be in calls with the US due to the time difference, right? So working hard is one element, but I think this flexibility is also a gift. So I could still pick up my kid from kindergarten and have some time with them, and just work at the night. It means you don't sleep, but we're back to it's not a 9-to-5 job. So.
It's not a 9-to-5 job. Thank you, Max. It was lovely having you. So thank you for listening to Matrix Tech Talk. If you have any comments, we would love to have your thoughts and comments below. Please feel free to write us. And if you can also write us an email at podcast@matrix.de. Thanks for watching.
In this podcast show, we bring in the industry leaders and experts in the automotive domain to share their experiences along their journey. The mission of our podcast is to start a dialogue that will allow us to understand the development of automotive industry and where the automotive industry is going. You can ask questions to our guests directly. Just send us an email to podcast@matrix.de. We'll schedule a call with you during the recording and you'll be part of our show. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new episodes. Please share this video to help others get enlightened as well, and that would mean a great deal to us. See you in the next episode.